Coming to you from deep inside the bowels of a great big empty. Get ready for another episode of The Home Defense Show with Skip Coryell.
Hello, American families. Welcome to this week's episode of The Home Defense Show. I'm your host, Skip Coryell. And if you love your family, care about them deeply, and want to learn how to protect them in every facet of your life, then you've come to the right place. We have a very heartwarming show this week. It's a special show, and this week's Home Defense Show is in honor and in memory of Gunnery Sergeant Daniel J. Price. Dan was a Marine Raider, several deployments, I believe 3 full deployments. He died in his 4th deployment, but he was a Marine Raider. Now, a lot of you probably don't even know what that is. Basically, take all the Marines, you pick out the best, the very best of the Marine Corps, train them to the hilt, and then you have a Marine Raider. They're kind of like the Navy SEALs of the Marine Corps. So, we will be speaking with Ruth Price, the mother of Dan Price, and the author of her book, No Stray Bullets, The Making of an American Hero. This is just an awesome book. I know you're going to love it. I enjoyed reading it. It kind of brought back memories to me because, you know, some of the same training that I did, he did here as well. You know, he went to boot camp in San Diego, and so did I. I see he did mountain warfare training in Bridgeport, California. That's where I had my mountain warfare training. And, you know, he spent time in Camp Lejeune, and so did I. It's just, you know, there's a lot of camaraderie in the Marine Corps, in all the branches of the military, without a doubt. But I enjoyed this very much. This book right here, it's for sale on Amazon. You can pick it out. No Stray Bullets by Ruth Price. I'm reading from the back here. It says, Dan Price was the best of what America has to offer. A hard-working and fun-loving Midwestern boy formed by faith, family, and farm, in that order. When his country called for warriors to fight the global war on terror, Dan answered and became the best of the best. As a United States Marine, he served as an elite Special Forces operator, a MARSOC Raider. That stands for Marine Special Operations Command. Recognized by his peers as one of the finest they had ever seen. Where do these heroes come from? In No Stray Bullets, Gunnery Sergeant Price's mother, Ruth, tells the story of a church-going, homeschooled boy who went from the fields and barns of Michigan to fierce battles in the cities of Iraq and the mountains of Afghanistan. Along the way, he developed world-class physical, mental, and operational skills without ever losing the faith and values that were the source of his strength. When he came home, his whole hometown honored his heroism. Dan Price's courage and accomplishments were not products of mere chance, and neither was his death. Ruth Price celebrates her son's life because in God's wisdom and providence, there are no stray bullets. And that's a pretty healthy way to look at it, I think. Well, we're going to be interviewing Ruth Price, mother of Gunnery Sergeant Dan Price, Marine Corps Raider, in segments 2 and 3. You're going to love it. You're just going to love it. I met Ruth a few months back at a book signing over at Center Shot Indoor Gun Range over in Dorr, Michigan. She had her book there. I had my books, and we had a nice talk. And, boy, I decided then and there, you know, we've got to get this lady on the show. So that's what we'll be doing in segments 2 and 3. In the meantime, what is going on in my life? Well, I'll tell you right now, as I speak, I am in the parking lot of the Hamilton Rod and Gun Club. Some of you may have taken a class by me at Hamilton Rod and Gun Club. It's a great place. Kenny Shelton here, the president of the club, does a great job. And just really good people over in this neck of the woods. My son is inside the gun club right now. He's taking his hunter safety education course. He's 13 years old, and he needs to get that out of the way because I need help killing deer and filling the freezer. I mean, we ate 4 deer last year, And, I'm getting a mite long in the tooth. I don't know if I can keep killing 4 deer every single year. Yeah, I can. But, it's always fun to have the camaraderie when you're out hunting. It's when you're out hunting by yourself all the time, it's calming, it's introspective. I enjoy it, but I think I would really love watching my son, kill his first deer and just watch his excitement and teach him how to, blood trail that deer to track him and gut him out. And that's another thing. I'm getting too old to gut out deer. I'll train him to do it, and he can gut out my deer too. I think that is an excellent plan. That's what I have on my agenda for this fall. I'll probably still shoot 4 deer, but he's gonna gut them all out and drag them back to the to the barn for me. Okay, a few news items here. Make sure you check out Second Amendment March, secondamendmentmarch.com or 2amarch.com, and say, hey, I'm interested in going to this event. I'm going to this event. Check it out on Facebook or on our website. You need to get involved in that. Also, hey, this is a time of year you want to be going to training classes, guys. I've got all these pistol tactics classes. I've got concealed pistol license classes, the basic. I've got level 1, beyond basic CPL, level 2, move, shoot, and live, level 3, advanced handgun tactics. You want to be doing this stuff now so you don't have to be doing it in February when it's freezing to death out there. Okay? Don't come to me in February and complain about the weather, because the weather's great out there right now. So, check it out on my website, mwtac.com. That's Michael Whiskey Tango Alpha Charlie.com. Or you can sign up on shootingclasses.com as well. But check those out, because I would love to see on the range less than 1% of all CPL holders ever go on to get any training beyond what's required by the government. And that's a sad state of affairs. All right. We are about out of time for this segment, but when we come back, we're going to be speaking with Ruth Price, mother of Marine Raider Dan Price. All right, we got a 2-minute break. Go ahead and check out our sponsors, firearmslegal.com/Midwest Tactical, and see how they can keep your family out of the criminal justice system. And then also check out Center Shot Indoor Gun Range. Center Shot, they've got a state-of-the-art facility there, and it's not 95 degrees. It's 70 degrees. CenterShotGunRange.com, where it's always a perfect 70 degrees. All right, folks, we'll be back in 2 minutes. Skip Coryell on Home Defense Show. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
Welcome to the Home Defense Show with my dad, Skip Coryell. Don't go nowhere. We'll be right back.
Do you have a story inside you yearning to come out? As a self-published author, you are free to creatively distribute your book online or using your own professional connections. White Feather Press will publish your manuscript and set up online distribution, allowing the author to retain all copyright and distribution rights as well as all profits. Check out White Feather Press at publishyourdream.com. White Feather Press, reaffirming faith in God, family, and country. Go to publishyourdream.com today. Hey folks, I want to tell you about my book, Savion Combat, the Concealed Carry Book. More and more people across the country are seeing the dangers in society and are deciding to carry concealed to protect themselves and their families. My new book lays it out step by step. It'll teach you how to protect and defend the ones you love. Get the benefit of 19 years of teaching experience and a lifetime of training for this important role in society and in your family. You can get Savion Combat real easy. Just go to Amazon.com, search on Skip Coryell Savion Combat, and it'll pop right up there. Don't put it off any longer. Get Savion Combat, the Concealed Carry Book by yours truly, Skip Coryell. Would you like to take your tactical and marksmanship training to the next level? If the answer is yes, you need to check out Center Shot Indoor Gun Range just south of Grand Rapids, conveniently located off US 131. Center Shot is one of the most advanced firing ranges in Michigan. Center Shot firing lanes have nearly 100 customizable shooting programs to make you better no matter what your skill level. Our advanced lanes allow a more immersive training experience to enhance your senses. Controlled lighting and target movement mean that you get the best practice and most fun out of Centershot Indoor Gun Range. Memberships are available for as low as $150. Centershot also offers a 10% discount to U.S. military veterans. So, no matter what the weather, hot, cold, or in between, Centershot Indoor Gun Range is always a perfect 70 degrees. This is where I train every week, and so should you. Find out more by going to CentershotGunRange.com or call them at 616-371-7468. Stay safe, and I'll see you at Centershot Indoor Gun Range.
This is Colonel Danny Gillum. I host Frontlines of Freedom, a weekly syndicated military talk radio show. One of my co-hosts is Skip Coryell, the host of this show. We cover things that impact military and veteran communities, and we do it from the veteran's perspective. The show is broadcast across the nation and is also available as a podcast on our website, frontlinesoffreedom.com. Please join Skip and me weekly on Frontlines of Freedom.
Okay, folks, welcome back to the Home Defense Show. This is your host, Skip Coryell. Today we are speaking with author Ruth Price about her book titled No Stray Bullets, The Making of an American Hero. Ruth, welcome to the Home Defense Show.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, not a problem. Now, Ruth, you and I, we met over at Centershot Indoor Gun Range in Dorr just a couple of months ago. You and I did a joint book signing there. How's it been going since then? What have you been up to this summer?
It's been a really busy summer. We had a couple of events where we had one event in May that we spoke at a fundraiser for the Marine Raider Foundation. They asked if we would come and talk about Dan, and we said certainly. So we were in New York City for 3 days, and then we also had a Raider Foundation Gold Star Family Reunion in June that we participated in. So that's been just a little connection yet with the Raider unit that Dan was a part of. And, yeah, other than that, it's just normal summer stuff.
Just dealing with the heat. Well.
Yep, the heat and the garden, which is exploding.
Yeah, I have the same thing with my garden. But Ruth, you know, I want to talk to you about your book, No Stray Bullets, The Making of an American Hero. Tell me about your book.
The book is a biography of our son, Dan. As you know, he was killed in July 29 of 2012. And so I thought that in order to honor his memory and to tell his story, I needed to write a book. So I started out, it starts out with his childhood growing up on our 10-acre hobby farm, raising 4-H animals. Dan worked for a neighbor pig farmer from the time he was 11 until the time he left for the Marine Corps at age 18. And so the book tells the story of his upbringing and also his military training, a lot of the schools he went to. Dan told us a lot of stuff along the way. So there's a lot of military information in the book. I talk extensively about his deployments and some of the particular events in his military career that made him the person that he was when he died. He was injured in 2011, and his rehab is outlined in the book. It's described. He also was involved in several gunfights that we were aware of, one of which he earned a Bronze Star Medal with a V for Valor. And so, it's a story of a military hero with hometown roots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, now, you grew up over in the Holland, Zeeland area, is that correct?
That's correct, yep. Dan was born at Zeeland Hospital, and we've lived at our current location just southeast of Zeeland for the past 30 years. So Dan was 3 when we moved, and so his entire growing up years was spent here on this farm. Just 10 acres. It's not really a farming farm, but my husband always says it's enough to be dangerous.
Well, it's a fun farm, not a funny farm, but a fun farm.
Well, it's also been known to be funny in the past. So that's another thing about Dan is that Dan had a very developed sense of humor. He was an extremely funny person. He often was the comic relief on whatever team in whatever situation they were in. He also was comic relief for our family. We miss his humor. There's still a lot of things that we talk about Dan and end up laughing, and, just little Danisms, just little sayings that he would say that were just hilariously funny, mostly because of the way he said them.
Yeah. Yeah, being in the military, a sense of humor really does come in handy. It'll help you get through the hard times. Ruth, one question that I have, writing the book, did it help you through the grieving and the healing process?
Yes and no. The book was extremely difficult to write. It took me about probably a little over 2 years from the time I actually sat down and said, okay, I have to write this, to the time it was published. And you relive everything.
Yeah.
There was one day when I got to the point where Dan was killed, and I remember calling my daughter, and through tears, I just told her, Dan is dead again. Because through the writing of the book, I relived his childhood. I relived all of the phone calls where he told us what he was doing, the explanations of training, all of that. You relive it all. And then when it got to the end, you relive the whole death and the knock on the door and the funeral experience and the support of the community, and you kind of go through it all again. But at the same time, I felt so satisfied with telling Dan's story, with having a published book that I could read. I don't have to worry about forgetting, because that's one thing. After you lose someone like that, you worry that you're going to forget. You worry you're going to forget things about them, and you do. There are things that you don't remember, but I have a book. I can go back to the book. I can read his whole story. And I said during the writing of it, if nothing else, when I'm sitting in my rocking chair in the nursing home, I have a book that I can read that will remind me of my son. It tells his story. And, it was important to me that his memory was kept alive, that he would be honored, and more importantly, that his faith in God would be shared with whoever read the book.
This is Skip Coryell, host of the Home Defense Show. We're speaking with author Ruth Price, author of No Stray Bullets, The Making of American Hero, about her son, Gunnery Sergeant Dan Price, a Marine Raider. Now, Ruth, I'm going through the book and I'm learning things about you and about your family. And it says that Dan was homeschooled. Tell us about that.
He went to a local Christian school through the second grade. And at that time, we decided that our best option for educating our kids would be to keep them home, and I would be their teacher. There are several reasons for that. When kids go to school for 8 hours a day, you have very little oversight over what they're being taught. And I found that especially with boys, they don't come home at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon and sit down and talk to mom for 2 hours and tell her what happened today. So I felt just really removed from what was going on with him. And he came home from school one day and asked me why our family was so different from the other kids. And one of the things that was different was that we needed parental supervision wherever he was 8 years old. And if he went to a friend's house, we needed to know that kid's parents were there. Our kids asked permission before they turned the TV on, and then we monitored what they watched. And my 8-year-old son is saying, why is our family so different? Why can't I do what I want? And I was afraid for what he was going to be when he was 13, 14, 15 years old.
Yeah.
So the homeschooling was, and in my opinion, it's one of the best parenting decisions that we've ever made. And I asked him years later what would have happened if he had stayed in a regular school setting, and he said, I would have ended up in juvenile court.
Oh, wow.
He said, he was overachiever. He was a busy kid. He needed to have work to do. And if he wasn't kept busy, which what teacher can keep a kid like that busy in a classroom of 30 kids, he would make his own busyness, and that wouldn't have been good.
Yeah.
So we decided to homeschool him, and it was fabulous, and I'm so thankful for the years and the time that I was able to spend with him, and the things that we learned, not only from him, but from our other two kids as well.
Yeah. Well, you know, Ruth, you made the same decision that my wife and I did. Sarah, she homeschools our 13-year-old son, our 9-year-old son, and our 8-year-old daughter. She's upstairs right now, homeschooling them. And, you know, I think for Sarah and for you as well, one of the positives of homeschooling your children is instead of seeing them maybe 2 hours a day or getting 5 minutes of quality time every day, you're with them for like 6, 7, 8 hours every single day. And, you know, I know that takes its toll because, you know, it's a lot of work. I was going to
say, that's a blessing and a curse.
It's a lot homeschooling 3 kids, isn't it?
It is a lot of work, but it's worth it. And I felt, and, you know, my husband Carl and I together felt that was our responsibility. It's our responsibility to raise our children, and we weren't comfortable with delegating that responsibility to a school teacher. Not to say that that's wrong. I think it's fine for some parents if that's what they need to do, and if that's what their calling is, I'm totally fine with it. But for us, we weren't comfortable with it. We wanted to have that oversight, and just in connection with Dan's military service, his senior year of high school was spent preparing him for the Marine Corps. His history, he did study the U.S. Constitution, which he would be in charge of defending and upholding as a Marine, as a military person in this country. But he also spent time studying Marine Corps history, studying a lot of things that would be preparing him for what he had to do in the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
Same with his psychology. We're a very religious family, and so I knew that when he went to the Marine Corps, nobody was going to be doing devotions with him and encouraging him to walk in godliness. So I spent that year preparing him, finding biblical answers to the world's problems. Psychology is just a matter of, you know, training the mind and helping the mind cope with the difficulties. And so I tried to do that in a biblical way that would prepare him for doing that on his own when he moved out.
Yeah. You know, that's something that all of us parents, we struggle with. If we don't, we should struggle with it. But I remember my oldest son, Cedar, he's 13 now. You know, he is determined that he's going to go to West Point. You know, he wanted to do that. I was in the Marines, but he wants to be in the Army. And he's determined that he's going to do that. He gets up every single day. He goes out, you know, he exercises like crazy. He's taking martial arts and, you know, he makes his own swords and weapons. And it just seems like some kids were born for that warrior calling. Did you see that early on with Dan?
We didn't recognize it, but yes, we saw it. If that makes any sense. Looking back, it was definitely there. I would say we didn't recognize it as such. But he was always very concerned for the underdog.
Yeah.
He was always the protector for his little sister. He could pester her endlessly, but don't let anybody else mess with his sister.
I remember
and
that.
And he would pester, in a way that wasn't cruel or mean. It was playful.
Right.
And, you know, other than that, we had a little Jack Russell Terrier that generally those dogs are quite aggressive. Ours was very timid. He loved that little dog, and he played with her, and, you know, his favorite was to have her lay on his lap. So in spite of the warrior, and I think this is very much a part of a warrior mentality or personality is that they're concerned and compassionate for those who need help. And so he was very much that. He was definitely aggressive, but not ever in a mean or destructive way.
Yeah. Yeah, the military in general, it's kind of a rough room. I mean, let's face it, what the primary job of the military is to kill people and break things, but you do it to protect and defend your families, your country, the people that you love. And, for me, that's what it all comes down to. It's not what you're doing, but why you're doing it. It's just as important. Ruth, we're out of time for this segment, but I want to talk to you more about your son, his training, and your book when we come back here.
All right, thank you.
All right, we're going to go ahead and we're going to take a 2-minute break. While we're away, go ahead and check out our sponsors, firearmslegal.com/MidwestTactical. Find out how Firearms Legal Protection can help you and your family should you ever have to use your firearm to protect the ones you love. And also check out Center Shot Indoor Gun Range in Dorr, Michigan. Go to centershotgunrange.com, where it's always a perfect 70 degrees. This is Skip Coryell on the Home Defense Show. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
This is Felix Coryell on the Home Defense Show. Always use guns safely and wisely. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hey, folks. I want to tell you about my book, Savion Combat, the Concealed Carry Book. More and more people across the country are seeing the dangers in society and are deciding to carry concealed to protect themselves and their families. My new book lays it out step by step. It'll teach you how to protect and defend the ones you love. Get the benefit of 19 years of teaching experience and a lifetime of training for this important role in society and in your family. You can get Savion Combat real easy. Just go to Amazon.com, search on Skip Coryell Savion Combat, and it'll pop right up there. Don't put it off any longer. Get Savion Combat, the Concealed Carry Book by yours truly, Skip Coryell.
Wouldn't it be wonderful if life was like the movies and the good guys always won? In today's world, if you're forced to use your firearm to protect yourself, you will need protection. Firearms Legal Protection is here for you. FLP provides you with seasoned, experienced attorneys that handle your criminal and civil matters as a result of you protecting yourself. FirearmsLegal.com provides its members with uncapped attorney's fees, bail bond protection, and coverage in all 50 states. We are not a reimbursement plan. You can access uncapped attorney's fees for as low as $10 a month. Firearms Legal members are provided with educational services, training videos, and access to our vast national attorney network. While you're protecting yourself, let Firearms Legal protect you.
Listen up, folks. This is important. There are plenty of legal protection services out there, but none will protect you as well as Firearms Legal Protection. This is the one I use and the only one I recommend. Visit firearmslegal.com/MidwestTactical and protect your family now. Would you like to take your tactical and marksmanship training to the next level? If the answer is yes, you need to check out Center Shot Indoor Gun Range just south of Grand Rapids, conveniently located off US 131. Center Shot is one of the most advanced firing ranges in Michigan. Center Shot firing lanes have nearly 100 customizable shooting programs to make you better no matter what your skill level. Our advanced lanes allow a more immersive training experience to enhance your senses. Controlled lighting and target movement mean that you get the best practice and most fun out of Center Shot Indoor Gun Range. Memberships are available for as low as $150. Center Shot also offers a 10% discount to U.S. military veterans. So, no matter what the weather, hot, cold, or in between, Center Shot Indoor Gun Range is always a perfect 70 degrees. This is where I train every week, and so should you. Find out more by going to centershotgunrange.com or call them at 616-371-7468. Stay safe, and I'll see you at Center Shot Indoor Gun Range. Hey folks, I want to tell you about my new book, Concealed Carry for Christians. More and more people across the country are seeing the dangers in society and are deciding to carry concealed to protect themselves and your family, and that includes people of faith. Our churches are not as safe as they used to be, and that's why I included chapters on forming church safety teams and stopping mass shooters. You can get Concealed Carry for Christians real easy. Just go to Amazon.com, search on Skip Coryell, Concealed Carry for Christians, and it'll pop right up there. Don't put it off any longer. Get Concealed Carry for Christians by yours truly, Skip Coryell.
Okay, folks, welcome back to the Home Defense Show. This is your host, Skip Coryell. We are continuing our conversation with author Ruth Price, the author of No Stray Bullets, The Making of an American Hero. Ruth, a fascinating story about your son, Dan, growing up. There are a lot of similarities between your family and my family. I was in the Marines as well, but your son, Dan, he went on to much greater military heights than I did. What happened? He went to boot camp when he was 18 years old. Outline his military history for us.
Okay. He did not come from a military family. Neither I nor his father served. His one grandfather was in peacetime Army, but other than that, there's not a lot of military background in our family. So when he said he was going to go to the Marine Corps, it was kind of all brand new to all of us. But he turned 18 in June, and then he left in July for boot camp. And he completed his boot camp training with a promotion to private first class, which was his goal. He was quite adamant that he was going to do that. So Dan was a very driven individual. After boot camp, he went to the School of Infantry, where he was required, because his instructors said that he had to try out for a reconnaissance battalion. So he did that mandatory tryout, and he passed. So he was qualified to go to recon school, which he did. He said that the basic reconnaissance course was much harder than anything he had ever before done in his life. So he was now to the point where they were challenging him and teaching him what he really was capable of. So from there, he was in recon for 3 years, took every school that he could, jump school, dive school, salt climb school, so mountain climbing, just every school, SEER training, which is survival, evasion, resistance, and escape, where they treat you like a prisoner of war, and you have to, depend on your own wits and survival skills. And so he took all of these schools, and anything that came along, he was up for the challenge. So he was in recon for 3 years, and then he went to what is now known as the Raider Battalion. And that is very similar to the Navy SEALs. Their training is very similar. Their missions, they work in 5 to 15-man teams, and they're given a mission, and they go out and accomplish the mission. Not a lot of support. They pretty much go out, and the team depends on each other. So, that's the unit that he was with at the time that he was killed.
So he had obviously, we're talking about the best of the best. I mean, it's hard enough just to get through Marine Corps boot camp, but then to go beyond that, be selected for reconnaissance. We always refer to him as Ricky Recon. But it was a great honor and a challenge just to be in recon. But then after that, you don't go to a Raider Battalion just because you want to. You've got to be selected. No. You've got to. It's by invitation only. Yeah. It's the big boys club. So that's
true.
Awesome.
And the security clearance is much higher for the Raiders. And then he continued to take schools once he was in the Raiders, and there was just, his security level was getting higher and higher. And his last deployment, he really didn't tell us a lot about what he was doing because he couldn't. He was with a task force that was involved with overseeing combat operations in the Helmand River Valley. And he was, just doing a lot of team support, after mission reports. He was doing a lot of computer work. So his main duty of that deployment was to be in the office behind the computer.
Mm-hmm. So probably analyzing intelligence and making battle plans and stuff like that.
Exactly. Yep. He was highly skilled in mission planning, from what we understand, not from him, but from guys who worked with him. And a lot of his commanding officers have told us that his his war mission attitude was fabulous. That he would move. He knew he could assess the situation, and he knew what to do, and he would act on it.
Well, Ruth, you mentioned that he didn't come from a military family, and that's kind of unusual because normally there's some kind of a legacy or a big history of military families begetting more military people. Did you ever figure out why or how he managed to choose the Marines?
Well, we discussed in the last segment a little bit about being born a warrior, and we firmly believe that Dan was born to be a warrior, that God created him like that, gave him those abilities, gave him that aptitude, that interest. He loved guns. From the time he was little, he loved guns. If he didn't have one, they would carve one out of wood or use a banana or whatever, but he loved guns, needed a gun. And so that I think it's just something that was in him, but also he had an intense sense of justice. He was beginning his junior year of high school when the World Trade Center was attacked in September of 2001. And I think that was a huge catalyst to push him over the edge that said, okay, I need to defend our country. And so he did that. And Marines, that was kind of a process of elimination. He originally wanted to be in the Navy because he knew about the Navy SEALs. And so he thought he wanted to be a Navy SEAL. Well, before he went that route, he talked to all of the different recruiters, and the Marine recruiter was a very smart man. And he looked at Dan and he said, what if you don't make it in the SEALs? If you're in the Navy, you could be stuck on a ship for 4 years just mopping decks. Well, that didn't sound like much fun to Dan. So, and then the Marine recruiter said the Marines are always first in every fight, first boots on the ground. Every Marine is first and foremost a rifleman. Well, that sounded a little more like what Dan was looking for. So, he signed him up, and that's where he ended up. And, he immediately went into recon. I think had he not gone into recon immediately, I don't know that he would have stayed in the Marine Corps. He was in for 9 years, but if he was in regular Marine Corps without the special ops, the special training opportunities, and all of the, the extra perks of special forces, I don't know that he would have stayed in.
Yeah. What kind of experience did he have with firearms while he was growing up? Were you a firearms family, a hunting family? What was going on with that?
Yep, we are a bit of hunters, not serious hunters, but we always had shotgun rifles around, not just laying around, but safely stored away. And we used them, and the kids, as they were growing up, high school, a lot of times their Friday night activities would involve shooting clay pigeons, in which Dan often was instructor and safety manager. He would just take that responsibility on himself and teach the kids how to use the guns and just watch out for everybody's safety, keeping people where they needed to be and making sure that things were responsibly handled. And so before he left the Marine Corps, he had a handgun, he had a shotgun, and a rifle.
Probably a .22 rifle?
A .22 rifle. There you go. That's what I'm trying to think of. And he also he got an AR-15 that he had a riot with, multi-target shooting. But, I remember the time there was a woodchuck under our camper in the backyard, and Dan got his AR-15 out, and he, from the house, it's probably 50 yards, and just nailed that woodchuck. And he was so excited. And I'm just thinking, oh, no, holes in my trailer, but no, he did fine. He shot it and was just all excited. But no, he always, after he was wounded in 2011, we were in California with him for a couple of weeks, and we bought him a couch with an automatic foot raiser thing because his kneecap was shattered, so he needed to have some help getting his feet up and keeping his feet elevated. But in the middle of it, it had a console that raised up, and it had a little storage box, and he called it his drawer of righteousness. And in that box, in that little storage compartment, he had his Bible and his handgun, and that was his drawer of righteousness. And so a lot of guys that he worked with knew about that. They'd come to visit him, and he'd show them his drawer of righteousness. And that just was how Dan was. It was just guns were always a part of his life. He did a lot of dry firing, just all the time. His wife told me at one point, she says, "I'm so sick of hearing that gun click," because he just was always, he says, "You got to know your tools. You got to be able to work with your tools." Well, those were his tools. So. Yeah.
Did he ever discuss with you or your husband or his wife about how he came to grips with, his Christianity and taking a human life?
Yes. He struggled with that. The first couple of deployments, it wasn't too much of an issue. He was young. He was, 19, 20 years old. And he was just the adrenaline pumped, and the guys are all in there going, this is cool, this is war, this is what I came for. On his third deployment, his platoon sergeant was wounded. He lost both of his legs in an IED attack. And all of a sudden, for Dan, war wasn't quite as glamorous as what it had been. The reality of I could go back maimed, and also the idea that, we're shooting at these guys, but they have wives and families just like we have wives and families. And so he kind of struggled with that, and he was thinking about the fact that he's sending them to their eternal destiny. And he talked to my husband about it primarily, and Carl told him, he says, you don't make yourself that big. Number one, you're doing what God has called you to do, because God gives the sword of justice to the military and to the law enforcement. So you're doing what you're called to do with that. And also, it's not up to you for anybody's eternal destiny. That belongs to God. He says, and when you get to that point, it's either you or him. You've got to be able to act. So, he struggled with that after his third deployment, but before he deployed again, he very firmly had, he had reconciled it in his own mind, and he knew that he had to before he deployed again, because he didn't want to be that guy that couldn't be depended on.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things about being in the military, certainly in the Marine Corps, is the camaraderie. I was a peacetime Marine, so I'd never been in combat. But, even in peacetime, there was always the esprit de corps, the feeling of being friends and comrades. And, yes, I'll die for you. I'll fight for you. We're in this together. And did he ever talk about the bond, the band of brothers?
He did, to some extent. I guess it was made most real to me after he was killed, and then we would talk to some of his teammates, and it almost made me jealous, because they knew, even though they knew the same Dan, they knew a different side of Dan that I had never seen. And he would talk to us about it, and he told us, but it was like I never experienced that. And that closeness, what you're talking about, he always said blood is thicker than water, so he always valued family, and we were very important to him wherever he was all over the world. He called every couple of weeks at the very least. If he was stateside, we could know that we would hear from him every weekend. So we knew family was important, and yet there was that bond that we couldn't intrude on. It was different. Yeah. It's a different bond, and especially the guys that they go into combat with. Like you say, you're peacetime and you still have that, but when they go into combat and bullets are flying and they're depending on the guy next to him and the guy behind him, it's pretty tight. He told us that. He says it's closer than family.
Yeah, there's just no getting around that, and it's not something that you can really, easily experience in civilian life because the conditions are totally different.
Exactly.
You don't have to depend on someone to save your life or go into combat with. So it's totally different. Now, Ruth, we got on some heavy topics there. But I want to end on a lighter note here. So, you mentioned his first confirmed kill, a woodchuck. Now, you got to tell me here, Ruth, did you cook that woodchuck up for him, and did he eat it?
Definitely not. No, we didn't eat any woodchucks. That actually was not his first confirmed kill. He actually killed squirrels and little birds and sparrows and things in the barn previous to that, way back when he was like 10 years old with a BB gun. The squirrels, They did eat. They did make me fry up squirrels in the frying pan with butter, and he and his brother would eat those. The woodchuck, no. I'm not sure what happened to him, but he disappeared, and I did not cook him.
Yeah, well, you got to draw the line somewhere, don't you?
Exactly. I don't think he would have eaten it. Although when he went to SEER school, he ate a lot of things that I would not have eaten.
Yeah.
It's survival, and they're out there, and so he's been known to eat a bug now and then, and some parts of animals that you and I would not consider to be so tasty. But
well, I recall one unfortunate monkey that we ate down in Panama years ago.
Oh my!
I've never had a taste for monkey. I can't even look a monkey in the eye these days. But Ruth, it's great talking to you. Before you go, please tell us, how can people get a hold of your book, No Stray Bullets?
The book is available on Amazon. Just go to Amazon, and it's No Stray Bullets, The Making of an American Hero. You just, there is, if anybody ever wants to make comments back to me, let me know how they liked it or reactions. There is an email address in the front of the book. I love to hear comments from people who have read it, other people's experiences, maybe in the military or with children in the military. But yeah, the book is available on Amazon.
That is awesome. All right, and I see the email address is nostraybullets@gmail.com. Ruth, it's been great talking to you. I always like talking about the Marine Corps, even though I've been out for decades. Once a Marine, always a Marine. So
absolutely, yeah.
I wish I could have gotten to know your son Dan. I think we would have hit it off really well. Okay.
He was an awesome and very fun person. Yeah.
Well, Ruth, thank you very much for being on the Home Defense Show. All right, folks, we got a 2-minute break coming up. While we're away, go ahead and check out our sponsors, firearmslegal.com/MidwestTactical, and check out what FLP can do for you and your family. And then go to CenterShotGunRange.com and see what CenterShot Indoor Gun Range in Dorr, Michigan, how can they help you, your family, and meet all your training needs. CenterShot Gun Range, where it's always a perfect 70 degrees. This is Skip Coryell on the Home Defense Show. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
Welcome to my dad's Home Defense Radio show. You're gonna love it.
Hey folks, I want to tell you about my book, Savion Combat, the Concealed Carry Book. More and more people across the country are seeing the dangers in society and are deciding to carry concealed to protect themselves and their families. My new book lays it out step by step. It'll teach you how to protect and defend the ones you love. Get the benefit of 19 years of teaching experience and a lifetime of training for this important role in society and in your family. You can get Savion Combat real easy. Just go to Amazon.com, search on Skip Coryell Savion Combat, and it'll pop right up there. Don't put it off any longer. Get Savion Combat, the Concealed Carry Book by yours truly, Skip Coryell.
This is Colonel Danny Gillum. I host Frontlines of Freedom, a weekly syndicated military talk radio show. One of my co-hosts is Skip Coryell, the host of this show. We cover things that impact military and veteran communities, and we do it from the veteran's perspective. The show is broadcast across the nation and is also available as a podcast on our website, frontlinesoffreedom.com. Please join Skip and me weekly on Frontlines of Freedom. Skip, it's time for the Armed America Report. What do you have, Bill?
All of us here at Front Lines of Freedom want our listeners to get trained and get armed in that order. We fully support the right to keep and bear arms for all law-abiding families, and we encourage you to find out about the laws governing use of deadly force in your state and follow them to the letter. And of course, don't forget to follow the rules of safety and common sense whenever you're carrying a firearm to protect the ones you love. What's the story this week, Colonel?
Well, a home intruder met his end after breaking and entering into the wrong home in California. Just before 7 a.m., a burglar entered a Lancaster, California home. Video surveillance showed the intruder tried to break into another home prior to this attempt. The man came in through a downstairs rear window and walked to an upstairs bedroom inside the family's home. Fearing for the safety of his children, the homeowner armed himself and fired off a shot, which struck the intruder in the upper torso, killing him. According to police, the family was unharmed during the incident.
Thanks, Colonel. The laws differ slightly from state to state when it comes to home intruders. Some states call it breaking and entering. There is some confusion as to what that really means. Many people believe that in order for the crime of breaking and entering to occur, the invader must use some type of force, either to open a window or door, or to break down the door, or to break a window. But in most states, this is not the case. Think of the door or window of your house as being protected by an invisible force field. If a home intruder breaks the boundary of that physical barrier and enters your home uninvited, then, according to the laws of many states, he has committed breaking and entering. There are cases where burglars have walked through open doorways and still been convicted of breaking and entering. In other states, they could be charged with home burglary. In those states, the intruder must enter the home without permission, but it must also be proven that he intends to commit a crime while inside the home. The laws of most states vary when it comes to criminal charges and sentencing guidelines. In some states, you can be charged with forcible entry or even unlawful entry. Some states require the illegal entry to be a place where someone lives, sleeps, and dwells. Still, in other states, you can be charged with forcible entry for breaking into a vending machine. As you can see, the laws of all states can be varying and complex, and I highly recommend you check out the laws of your state with a licensed attorney in your jurisdiction. But make no mistake about it. Anytime someone enters your dwelling uninvited, they are committing some type of crime, whether it be called illegal entry, forcible entry, burglary, home invasion, breaking and entering, or even criminal trespass. In this particular case, the homeowner in California did the right thing by using his firearm to protect himself and his family, and Front Lines of Freedom salutes his bravery, his sound judgment, and his superior marksmanship.
Thank you, Skip. Right on.
Hey folks, I want to tell you about my new book, Concealed Carry for Christians. More and more people across the country are seeing the dangers in society and are deciding to carry concealed to protect themselves and your family, and that includes people of faith. Our churches are not as safe as they used to be, and that's why I included chapters on forming church safety teams and stopping mass shooters. You can get Concealed Carry for Christians real easy. Just go to Amazon.com, search on Skip Coryell, Concealed Carry for Christians, and it'll pop right up there. Don't put it off any longer. Get Concealed Carry for Christians by yours truly, Skip Coryell. Okay, folks, welcome back to the Home Defense Show. This is your host, Skip Coryell. That was a great last two segments with author Ruth Price, author of the book No Stray Bullets, all about her son, Marine Raider Dan Price. I wish I could have known that guy. I really, really do. I mean, we had so much in common. I think we really would have hit it off really, really well, and probably could have had a really good time out on the range. You know, I was looking more at this book. In the very back, there is a quote from Lieutenant Colonel Andrew Christian, retired. He's 1st Marine Raider Battalion. Obviously one of the officers Dan served under. Gunnery Sergeant Dan Price was a heroic warrior who had an unmatched work ethic and a commitment to excellence. He epitomizes the words honor, courage, and commitment. Dan Price will go down in the history of the Marine Raiders as a legendary warrior who refused to lose in combat. I had the honor and privilege to command Dan on 2 combat deployments and watch his heroic actions on multiple occasions. Not only is he one of the most gifted combat leaders in the history of the Marine Corps Forces Special Operations Command, he is one of the finest men I had the opportunity to know. This book is a fitting tribute to a Marine Raider who lived the life of Spiritus Invictus, unconquerable spirit. That was by Lieutenant Colonel Andrew Christian, retired 1st Marine Raider Battalion. Wow. Those are strong words, but I'm sure they were dearly earned. Wow. You know, folks, you got to get this book, No Stray Bullets, The Making of an American Hero by Ruth Price. Just go to Amazon, No Stray Bullets, Ruth Price. You know, I also noticed that it's for sale at Center Shot Indoor Gun Range. It's right up there at the counter. That's where I got my copy. You guys can check that out as well. You know, earlier I mentioned that some of you won't even know what a Marine Raider is. I went online and I asked the question, what is a Marine Raider? And when you go to Wikipedia, here's what you find out. The Marine Raiders are elite units established by the United States Marine Corps during World War II to conduct special amphibious light infantry warfare, particularly in landing in rubber boats and operating behind the lines. The 2nd Raider Battalion filled out the Regimental Weapons Company. So they had their roots in 1942 in World War II. In 2014, the Marine Special Operations Regiment, serving under the U.S. Marine Corps Forces Special Operations Command, MARSOC, was renamed the Marine Raider Regiment. This change was implemented to better show that modern Marine Special Operations forces trace their lineage and heritage back to the World War II Raiders. Individual Marines of the Marine Raider Regiment are once again called Marine Raiders. Looks like during World War II they were active 1942 through the end of the war. Then they were deactivated and then reactivated whenever they were needed. But they do all the same things that, you know, the Navy SEALs, the Green Berets do. You know, they get the same training. Okay, so they're going to be going in behind enemy lines, either parachute in or go in, you know, with fast boats, you know, maybe dropped in by helicopter, fast roping, you know, all of that stuff. They get sniper training, parachute training, boat training, scuba diving, you name it, underwater demolitions. It's all of that stuff, fun stuff. I'm 61. I don't think I want to do that now. But, you know, when I was in the Marine Corps, I was age 18 to 24, I would have really liked that kind of stuff. You know, I should have done that. One of those regrets, right? But that window of opportunity has passed me by. And you know what else is passing me by? You know, what is that song? Time keeps on slipping into the future. I can't remember the name of the group that does that. Send me an email at skipcoyle@hotmail.com and tell me what's the name of that group, and I will give you a free copy of my book, Concealed Carry for Christians. Just send it to skipcoyle@hotmail.com. What is the name of the group that sang that song? Time keeps on slipping into the future. And I can hear it, but I just can't remember. Anyways, old age, I suppose. Well, time is slipping away into the future. And my son is getting ready to come out of his hunter education program here. And we're going to get on the road and head back home. So I have got to end this week's episode of the Home Defense Show. Next week, we're going to have Gabe Suarez from Suarez International. I don't know exactly what he wants to talk about, but I'm sure it's something gutsy. Because this guy, he's like the Navy SEALs of the training industry here in America. So Gabe Suarez next week from Suarez International. Well, okay, folks, that about wraps it up for this week's episode of the Home Defense Show. Until next week, remember, your purpose in life is to find something greater than yourself and serve it. Always remember, God, family, country, in that order. It's important how you live, but it's equally important how you die. Your family and the ones you love need your protection, so train, always train, stay alert, stay alive. Until next week on the Home Defense Show, this is your host, Skip Coryell. God bless you, God bless your family, and God bless America. You know, and God bless Ruth Price for her book and for raising Gunnery Sergeant Daniel Price. We salute you both. Have a great week, folks.
Thank you for joining us this week on the Home Defense Show. Now, get out there and protect the ones you love. We'll see you next week with more of the best in home defense.
Bye-bye, boys! Have fun storming the castle!